I found the pregnancy test in her purse the same day I found out none of our 3 children were biologically mine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the Tuesday that ended everything, or maybe the Tuesday everything actually began. It was April 18th, 2018. I remember because it was trash day, and I was the one who always took out the recycling. That's where I found it, not the pregnancy test. That came later. First, it was the phone bill, AT&T March statement. I almost threw it away without looking. We'd gone paperless years ago, so seeing a physical bill felt strange. Maybe that's why I opened it. Maybe some part of me already knew. The paper felt heavier than it should have. I counted the calls twice, thinking I'd made a mistake. 347 calls in 6 weeks, all to one number, same area code as ours. All between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., the hours Emma, Jake, and Lily were at school. The hours Rachel said she was running errands, meeting her book club, doing yoga. The ink smudged under my thumb. I stood there in the driveway, trash bag in one hand, evidence in the other, while Mrs. Patterson next door waved good morning. I waved back. I'm not sure how. Inside, I could hear Rachel making breakfast. Pancakes. Tuesday was always pancakes, Emma's favorite. Jake liked them shaped like dinosaurs. Lily wanted hers cut into perfect squares because she was 7 and precision mattered to her more than anything. I walked back inside and set the bill on the kitchen counter. Didn't say a word, just placed it there between the syrup and the butter dish and watched her face when she saw it. If you've ever had your world shatter in a single moment, drop it in the comments. You're not alone. Rachel's hand froze mid-flip. The spatula clattered against the pan. She picked up the bill, read it, put it down, picked it up again, like maybe the numbers would change if she looked harder. Daniel, don't. The kids were in the living room, arguing over the remote. SpongeBob or Wild Kratts. Emma wanted nature documentaries because she was 9 going on 30. Jake and Lily formed an alliance for cartoons. Their voices were so normal, so beautifully, devastatingly normal. It's not what you think, Rachel said. I pulled out my phone, dialed the number from the bill, put it on speaker, 3 rings, then a man's voice. Hey babe, running late? I hung up. Rachel's face went white. Not pale, white, like someone had drained every ounce of blood from her body. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Who is he? I asked. She didn't answer. How long? Still nothing. I turned off the stove. The pancakes were burning. I could smell them, that acrid char that would linger in the kitchen for days. Emma came in, asking what was wrong with breakfast. I told her Daddy messed up and we'd have cereal instead. She hugged my leg and said it was okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. After I got the kids on the bus, I came back to the kitchen. Rachel was sitting at the table, the phone bill in front of her like a piece of evidence at a crime scene. I need you to tell me everything, I said, starting with his name. She looked up at me. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. That's what I remember most. She wasn't crying. Marcus, she said. The room tilted. Marcus? My Marcus from college? She nodded. Marcus, my best man, Emma's godfather, the guy who helped us move into this house, the guy I called when my father died because Rachel was visiting her mother and I needed someone to sit with me while I fell apart. How long? I asked again. 2 years. 2 years. Emma was 7 when it started. Jake was 5. Lily was 3. 2 years of Tuesday pancakes and Friday movie nights and Sunday dinners where I grilled steaks while he drank my beer and complimented my wife's potato salad. Are you in love with him? She didn't hesitate. Yes. That's when I knew. Not that the marriage was over. I'd known that the second I dialed his number, but that's when I knew she'd already left. She was just still living in our house. Do the kids know? I asked. No. Does he have kids? No. Does he want them? Pause. He wants us. Me and the kids. Eventually. Eventually. Like my children were items on a negotiation list. Eventually, we'll take your couch. Eventually, we'll take your kids. I stood up, walked to the laundry room, grabbed a chair, climbed up and pushed aside the ceiling tile in the corner, the one that had been slightly crooked for weeks, the one I'd assumed I'd bumped cleaning. Inside was a phone, not her phone, a second phone. Android cheap, probably a burner. I brought it down, unlocked it, no password, scrolled through messages. 2,341 messages, photos, videos I will never unsee, plans made in my house while I was at work, while I was coaching Jake's T-ball team, while I was helping Emma with her science fair project about volcanoes. Then I saw something that made me stop breathing. A message from 6 months ago. Rachel to Marcus. I'm late, taking a test tomorrow. Marcus to Rachel. Ours? Rachel to Marcus. Has to be. We're careful, but God, I hope so. I went back to the kitchen. Rachel was still sitting there staring at nothing. Are you pregnant? I asked. She looked up, startled. What? Are you pregnant? Daniel, I don't understand. I found the phone in the ceiling. Are you pregnant? Her face crumpled. I was. I'm not anymore. What does that mean? I lost it 2 months ago. I didn't know how to tell you. Tell me what? That you were pregnant with another man's child? That you lost it? Or that you wanted it? She started crying then. Finally. But I felt nothing. Just this cold, expanding numbness like my body was shutting down room by room. Then she said the sentence that ended everything. He makes me feel alive, Daniel. You're a good father, a good provider, but with him, I feel alive. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd loved since college. This woman I'd proposed to on a beach in Maine because she loved the cold Atlantic and I loved how fearless she was. This woman who'd given me 3 children. Or had she? The thought arrived quietly, almost politely, like a stranger knocking at the door. Emma was 9, brown hair, hazel eyes, Rachel's hair, Marcus's eyes. Jake was 7, stocky build, gap-toothed smile. Not like me, not like Rachel, but exactly like Marcus's brother, who I'd met at the wedding. Lily was 5, left-handed, musical, obsessed with puzzles. Marcus played guitar. Marcus was left-handed. Marcus did the New York Times crossword in pen. I grabbed my keys. Where are you going? Rachel asked. Out. Daniel, we need to talk about this. We're done talking. I drove to CVS, bought 3 DNA test kits. The pharmacist asked if I needed help choosing. I said no. I knew exactly what I needed. Have you ever suspected something but been too afraid to confirm it? Let me know. Sometimes naming the fear helps. Back home, Rachel was gone. Her car, her purse, her phone, both phones gone. There was a note on the counter, staying at my mother's. Please don't call. The house felt enormous and suffocating at the same time. I went to Emma's room first, found a hairbrush on her dresser, pulled a strand of hair, sealed it in the first envelope. Then Jake's room, toothbrush from his bathroom. Finally, Lily's room. She had a baby blanket she still slept with, frayed at the edges, covered in her DNA from 5 years of love. I swabbed my cheek, sealed everything according to the instructions, addressed the envelopes to the lab. Then I sat on the floor of Lily's room, surrounded by her stuffed animals and her drawings of unicorns, and I tried to remember the exact moment each of my children was born. Emma, August 2008. I was there, held Rachel's hand through 14 hours of labor, cut the cord, cried when they placed Emma on Rachel's chest. But was I there 9 months before that? I tried to remember. We'd been fighting about money. I'd been working 60-hour weeks. She'd said she felt lonely. Jake, January 2011. Easier birth, 6 hours. I remembered because the Super Bowl was 2 weeks away, and I joked with the nurses about whether he'd be born before kickoff. But 9 months before that, summer 2010, Rachel went to her college reunion without me. I'd stayed home with Emma because she had the chicken pox. Lily, November 2012, C-section because Rachel's blood pressure spiked. They let me stay in the OR, scrubbed in, holding her hand. I watched them lift Lily out, tiny and perfect and screaming. 9 months before that, February, Valentine's Day, we'd had a huge fight because I'd forgotten to make reservations. She'd slept in the guest room for a week. The timeline lined up too perfectly. Every conception coincided with a fracture in our marriage. Or maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe grief was making me paranoid. Maybe my phone buzzed. Email from LabCorp. Your DNA test samples have been received. Results in 7-10 business days. I sat there until the kids got home. When they walked in, chattering about their day, I stood up and became their father again, made them snacks, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and I didn't mention their mother once. At 9 p.m., after they were asleep, I went to the hospital, not the emergency room, the records department. I asked for copies of birth certificates, said I needed them for passport applications. The clerk didn't question it. I sat in my car under the parking lot lights and opened Emma's birth certificate first. Father, Daniel James Preston. The paper was official, embossed, legal, but paper lies when people do. I looked at the hospital bracelet I'd worn the day Emma was born. I'd never taken it off. Pink plastic, faded now. The words still legible. Father, Daniel Preston, baby girl Preston, weight 6 LEBs, 4 Oz. I'd been there. I'd been present, but present isn't the same as paternity. 7 days passed. Emma asked when Mom was coming home. I told her soon. Jake asked if Mom was mad at us. I told him no, never. Lily asked if Mom stopped loving us. I knelt down, looked her in the eye, and said, "Some people aren't ready to love the way you deserve, but I am, and I always will be." She hugged me and asked for pancakes. Tuesday was always pancakes. On the 8th day, the results came. 3 envelopes, white, clinical, identical. I opened Emma's first. My hands were shaking so hard I tore the paper. There was a chart, numbers, percentages, genetic markers. And at the bottom, in bold black letters, excluded as biological father. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I opened Jake's envelope. Same chart, same markers, same conclusion. Probability of paternity, 0.0%, Lily's envelope. The paper smelled like antiseptic, like something medical, something terminal. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it 3 times. Emma, 0%. Jake, 0%. Lily, 0%. I wasn't their father, but they were my children. I sat at the kitchen table for I don't know how long, hours maybe. The envelopes spread out in front of me like a hand of cards I'd been dealt and couldn't play. There was a yellow legal pad on the counter. I kept it for grocery lists, honeydew items, reminders. I picked it up, pulled out a pen, and I wrote, "They didn't choose this. I choose them." The ink looked desperate, shaky, but the words were clear. Rachel called that night, asked if she could come over to talk. I said no. She asked if she could see the kids. I said no. She asked if I was keeping them from her. I said, "You kept yourself from them." She cried, told me I was being cruel, told me the kids needed their mother, told me I had no right. No right? I repeated. I have every right. I have 9 years with Emma, 7 with Jake, 5 with Lily. I have every scraped knee, every nightmare, every fever at 3 a.m. What do you have, Rachel? What do you have besides DNA? She hung up. I made pancakes the next morning, dinosaurs for Jake, perfect squares for Lily, regular circles for Emma, who said she was getting too old for shapes. We ate together. We laughed. Jake spilled syrup on his shirt. Lily announced she wanted to be a veterinarian. Emma asked if I could help her with her math homework after school, and I realized this was my family. Biology didn't make them mine. Choice did, presence did, love did. Rachel left on a Tuesday, filed for divorce on a Thursday. By Friday, her lawyer sent papers requesting full custody. The kids asked when Mommy was coming home. I didn't have an answer they could understand, so I gave them the only truth I had. I don't know, I said. But I'm not going anywhere. No questions, no lies, just us. Just us. Year 1 was survival mode. I don't remember much of it clearly. It's all a blur of lunches packed at 5 a.m., and permission slips signed at midnight, and laundry that never seemed to end. 3 kids, 1 parent, no margin for error. I'd wake up at 5:15, make coffee. Pack 3 lunches. Emma liked turkey sandwiches with the crust cut off. Jake wanted peanut butter every single day. Lily needed her carrots peeled or she wouldn't eat them. Start breakfast. Wake the kids at 6:30. Get everyone dressed. Teeth brushed. Backpacks checked. Emma could mostly handle herself, but Jake needed help with his buttons. And Lily would only wear dresses, even in winter, which meant tights and negotiations every morning. School drop-off by 7:45. Then straight to work. I was a project manager at a tech firm. Good job, $90,000 a year. But the hours were inflexible, and the deadlines were crushing, and I spent every meeting watching the clock, terrified I'd be late for pickup. 3:15 pickup, every day, no exceptions. Then homework and dinner and baths and bedtime stories, and finally, around 9 p.m., I'd collapse on the couch and try to remember if I'd eaten anything besides my kids' leftover chicken nuggets. The other parents noticed, the moms especially. They'd ask where Rachel was, all concerned smiles and probing questions. I said she was dealing with family issues. They'd nod and say they hoped everything worked out, but I could see the judgment in their eyes. The gossip would start before I even pulled out of the parking lot. Mrs. Patterson next door started leaving casseroles on the porch, tuna noodle, chicken, and rice. Always with a note, thinking of you and the kids. I wanted to be grateful. Mostly I was exhausted. One night, Emma asked why Mommy didn't love us anymore. We were sitting at the kitchen table. Jake was drawing. Lily was building with blocks. Emma was supposed to be doing her spelling homework, but instead she was just staring at me with those hazel eyes that I now knew came from someone else. I had 30 seconds to answer, 30 seconds to choose between honesty and mercy. I knelt down beside her chair. Your mom loves you, I said. Sometimes people love each other but can't be together. It's complicated adult stuff, but I love you enough for 2 parents, I promise. She thought about this. Then, will you leave too? Never. I'm your dad. That's forever. She went back to her spelling. Wrote Forever in careful letters across the page. Got it right on the first try. That was the same week I almost quit my job. The resignation letter is still in my desk drawer somewhere, crumpled and coffee-stained. I'd written it at 2 a.m. during one of those nights when the walls felt like they were closing in, and I couldn't figure out how I was going to do this for another day, let alone another decade. The letter said I needed a position with more flexibility. It said I appreciated the opportunities, but my priorities had changed. It said I hoped they understood. I never sent it. Because the next morning, Jake came downstairs wearing his Superman pajamas and announced he wanted pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, and Lily said she wanted to help crack the eggs, and Emma offered to set the table without being asked, and I realized this was it. This was the life I'd chosen. Not the one I'd planned, but the one I had. No excuses, no self-pity, just breakfast. Quick question while we're here. What would you have done? Stay for kids who aren't biologically yours, yes or no, in the comments. The divorce was finalized 6 months after Rachel left. She didn't fight for custody. Her lawyer said she was getting her life together and would revisit the issue later. Meanwhile, she paid nothing, no child support, no alimony. The judge said since she'd abandoned the family and had no income, there was nothing to take. I didn't care about the money. I cared that she'd signed away her kids without blinking. Emma stopped asking about her mother after the first year. Jake mentioned her occasionally, usually when he saw other kids with their moms at school events. Lily barely remembered her at all. And honestly, we were better without her. I know that sounds harsh, maybe even cruel, but it's true. Without Rachel's chaos, without the lies and the affair and the secret phones and the betrayal hanging over everything, we found our rhythm. Year 2, I got promoted. Flex schedule, better pay. I could work from home 3 days a week, which meant I could volunteer in Emma's classroom and coach Jake's soccer team and pick Lily up from kindergarten without panic attacks about being late. Year 3, we took our first vacation. Just us. Drove down to Florida, stayed in a cheap hotel with a pool. The kids thought it was the best week of their lives. Emma collected shells, Jake learned to body surf. Lily built sandcastles and declared she wanted to live at the beach forever. We took a selfie on the last day, all 4 of us sandy and sunburned and grinning. I got it printed and framed. It still hangs in the living room. By year 4, we'd found our new normal. We had traditions. Movie night Fridays, kids picked in rotation. Sunday morning pancakes, I'd finally mastered the dinosaur shapes. Wednesday pizza and board games, the kids had friends over. I joined the PTA. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving. Jake's teacher called me in for a conference. I went in worried. Jake had been struggling with reading, and I thought maybe he was falling behind. Instead, she showed me a paper he'd written for Mother's Day. The assignment was write about someone who takes care of you. Most kids wrote about their moms. Jake wrote about me. My dad makes my lunch every day. He helps me with homework even when he's tired. He came to every one of my soccer games this year. He's not my real dad. He's my best dad. Below the words was a drawing. Crayon on construction paper. A stick figure with a purple cape. Me, apparently. Superhero dad. The teacher had tears in her eyes when she showed me. He talks about you like you're his hero, she said. I took that drawing home, framed it, hung it in my office where I could see it while I worked. On the hard days, and there were still hard days, I'd look at that purple cape and remember why I was doing this. Then, year 7, my phone rang. It was a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. Rachel's mother. I hadn't heard from her in years. She'd sided with Rachel during the divorce, called me controlling, said I'd driven her daughter away. So when her name showed up on my screen, I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Daniel, she said. Her voice was shaking. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. You're right. It's about Rachel. I didn't say anything. She's sick, Daniel. Cancer, stage 3. They're saying she doesn't have long. The world tilted sideways. I sat down hard on the kitchen chair. She wants to see the kids, her mother continued. Before it's too late. I know you have every right to say no, but she's their mother. They deserve to say goodbye. I looked across the room at the family photo from Florida. 4 faces grinning. No Rachel. We'd built this life without her, we'd healed without her, and now she wanted back in. Daniel, are you there? I need to think about it, I said. She doesn't have much time. I said I need to think about it. I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma asking why Mommy didn't love us, about Jake's drawing with the purple cape, about Lily, who was now 12 and barely remembered Rachel at all. What did I owe the woman who abandoned us? What did the kids owe her? The next day, Rachel called. Not her mother this time, Rachel herself. Her voice was different, weaker, raspier. 7 years and a terminal diagnosis had changed it. Daniel, please, I need to see them. Why now? I asked. 7 years, Rachel, 7 years of silence. I was ashamed. I was broken. I was selfish. The word you're looking for is selfish. Silence. Then, you're right. I was selfish. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to say goodbye. They don't need goodbye. They've already moved on. Have they? Or have you convinced them they don't need me? That stung, because maybe there was truth in it. Maybe I had built our life so completely that there was no room for her. Maybe that was wrong, or maybe that was survival. Send me your medical records, I said finally. If you're really sick, I'll consider it. 2 days later, an envelope arrived. Oncology reports from Massachusetts General. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Prognosis 6 to 12 months without aggressive treatment. With treatment, 18 months maybe, and a letter, handwritten, for the kids. Dear Emma, Jake, and Lily, I don't expect you to understand why I left. I don't understand it myself anymore. I made terrible choices. I hurt people I loved. I hurt you. I'm so sorry. I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm dying, and I need you to know. Leaving you was the worst thing I ever did. If I could go back and stay, I would. I love you. I always loved you. Please let me see you one more time. Mom. Here's where it gets complicated. She's dying. She wants access. Do you owe her that? Drop your take below. I'll read every response. I showed the letter to Emma first. She was 16 now, old enough to decide for herself. She read it twice. Then she handed it back to me. Do you want to see her? I asked. I don't know. Do you think I should? I think that's your choice. What would you do? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I'd probably say no, but I'm angry. You're allowed to not be. She nodded. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. In the end, all 3 kids said yes. Not because they missed her, but because they were curious. Because 7 years was long enough to dull the pain and replace it with questions. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. I stayed at a different table, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to give them space. I watched Rachel walk in. She looked old, not just older, old, thin and gray and fragile. She saw the kids and started crying before she even reached the table. Emma was polite, Jake was nervous. Lily looked at her like she was a stranger, because she was. They talked for 20 minutes. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could read body language. Rachel was animated, gesturing, trying too hard. Emma was guarded. Jake was confused. Lily was distant. When it was over, Rachel asked if she could see them again. Emma said maybe. Jake said okay. Lily said nothing. In the car ride home, nobody spoke for a long time. Then Lily said, "She smells different than I remember." "People change," Emma said. "Do you think she's really sorry?" Jake asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Rachel started texting the kids daily. Long messages about how proud she was, how much she'd missed, how she wished she could undo the past. She sent presents, books for Emma, soccer cleats for Jake, a jewelry box for Lily that played "You Are My Sunshine." The kids accepted the gifts, but they didn't reciprocate the warmth. Then the texts changed. They got more pointed, more manipulative. "I wanted to come to your games, but your dad said no." I never said no. "I tried to call you last week, but it went to voicemail." She never called. "I hope your dad is letting you make your own choices about our relationship." Translation, your dad is controlling you. Emma showed me the messages. "Is she telling the truth?" "No," I said. "I've never stopped you from seeing her. She's rewriting history." "Why would she do that?" "Because admitting the truth that she left and you moved on without her hurts too much." The manipulation escalated. Rachel started showing up at school events, the parking lot, the grocery store, places she knew we'd be. She tried to talk to the kids without me present, pull them aside, whisper things I couldn't hear. One day, Emma came home looking stricken. "Mom told me you kept her away, that she tried to visit, but you threatened her." "That's not true." "She seemed really sure, Dad." "She's lying, Emma. I have 7 years of evidence that she chose to stay away, not me, her." But the seed of doubt was planted. Then came the Venmo requests, $12,000, itemized for child support for the lost years, for birthdays missed, for Christmases she wasn't there for the privilege of being their mother apparently. I declined them, all of them. Her response, "So you can afford a lawyer, but not to help the mother of your children while she's dying." I didn't respond. The day Emma looked at me and asked, "Why didn't you let Mommy come home?" I felt something break inside my chest. "Emma," I said carefully, "your mother left. She chose to leave. I didn't lock the door. She walked out of it, and for 7 years, she didn't knock. That's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's just what happened." "She said you told her she couldn't come back." "She's lying." "Why would she lie about that?" "Because the truth makes her look bad. And she needs you to believe I'm the villain so she doesn't have to be." Emma didn't respond, just went to her room and closed the door. That night, I sat in the kitchen with a glass of whiskey I didn't drink and stared at Jake's superhero drawing on the wall. 7 years. 7 years of showing up, of being present, of choosing them every single day. And in 3 weeks, Rachel had undone it all. I thought about calling my lawyer, but I didn't think I needed to. Rachel was dying. The kids were old enough to see through her manipulation. We'd survived this like we'd survived everything else. Then the envelope arrived. Certified mail, legal letterhead, family court seal. I opened it standing in the driveway, Mrs. Patterson watching from her porch like always. Petition for emergency custody modification. Petitioner Rachel Ann Preston, biological mother, seeks full custody of minor children. Emma Louise Preston, 16, Jacob Daniel Preston, 14, and Lily Marie Preston, 12, on the grounds that respondent Daniel James Preston has engaged in parental alienation and has unlawfully prevented the petitioner from exercising her parental rights. The paper fell from my hands. I picked it up, read it again. The words didn't change. She was suing me for custody after 7 years, while dying. She was trying to take my kids. My phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. "Mr. Preston, this is Jennifer Walters from Whitman and Associates. I'm representing Rachel Preston in her custody matter. My client wants you to know she's willing to settle this without court intervention if you agree to shared custody and back child support." "Back child support?" I couldn't breathe. "She abandoned them." "That's one interpretation. My client maintains she was prevented from accessing her children by your controlling behavior. We have documentation." "What documentation?" "Text messages, witness statements, a pattern of exclusion. Mr. Preston, I strongly advise you to retain counsel. The hearing is in 3 weeks." She hung up. I stood in the driveway holding the petition, and for the first time in 7 years, I didn't know what to do. Then I looked at the house. Through the window, I could see Emma doing homework at the kitchen table, Jake watching TV, Lily reading on the couch. My kids, no DNA, no biology, just 7 years of showing up. Her lawyer said biological mothers have priority. She said Rachel would win. But I'd already decided something 7 years ago, standing in that same kitchen with 3 DNA results in front of me. They didn't choose this, I choose them. And I'd choose them again, as many times as it took. No questions, no lies, but maybe one truth they needed to hear. I hired a lawyer the next morning, Patricia Chen. No relation to the therapist, she clarified immediately. 58 years old, silver hair, eyes that had seen every custody battle variation possible. She read the petition while I sat across from her desk, my hands clenched so tight my knuckles were white. "This is aggressive," she said finally. "Emergency custody after 7 years of absence? It's unusual, but not impossible, especially if she can prove alienation." "I didn't alienate anyone." She left. "Can you prove that?" "I have everything. Phone records, text messages, bank statements, 7 years of school documents with me as the only contact, 7 years of her paying nothing, showing up nowhere." Patricia nodded. "Good, that's good, but there's something else we need to discuss." "What?" "The DNA." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "Are you their biological father?" The question hung in the air like a blade. "No," I said, "but..." "No buts in family court, Daniel. Either you are or you aren't. And if you aren't, her lawyer will use that. They'll argue biology supersedes everything. that the children's biological mother has priority regardless of abandonment. That's insane. That's Massachusetts family law. She leaned forward. Daniel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. Have the kids ever been told the truth about the DNA? No. Why not? Because they didn't need to know. Because it doesn't matter. It matters now. If Rachel's lawyer brings it up in court, and they will, the kids will find out in the worst possible way. In front of a judge. In front of strangers. You need to tell them first. They're 16, 14, and 12. How do I tell them their mother is a liar and I'm not their father? Patricia's expression softened. You tell them you're their dad. DNA doesn't change that. But you give them the truth so Rachel can't weaponize it. That night I asked Emma and Jake to sit with me in the living room. Lily was upstairs reading, or so I thought. We need to talk, I said, about your mom, about the custody case, about everything. Emma's face was guarded. Jake looked scared. I pulled out the 3 envelopes. The DNA results from 7 years ago, still in my desk drawer where I'd kept them, hidden but not forgotten. When your mom left, I said slowly, I had questions about the affair, about the timeline, about a lot of things, so I did something I probably shouldn't have. I handed Emma her envelope, Jake his. They opened them. I watched Emma's face as she read, watched the confusion, then the shock, then the understanding wash over her features. 0%, she whispered. Jake was still reading. What does excluded as biological father mean? It means, Emma said quietly, Dad isn't our real dad, biologically. Jake looked up at me. His eyes were huge. Is that true? Yes. Silence, the kind that feels like it might never end. Then, from the stairs, what about me? Lily, standing there in her pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit. She'd heard everything. I pulled out the 3rd envelope, handed it to Emma. Same result, all 3 of you. Lily came down the stairs slowly, sat next to Jake on the couch. So Mom cheated on you? Yes. With who? Someone I knew. It doesn't matter now. Does Mom know about the DNA? I don't know. I never told her I tested, but she knew the affair overlapped with all 3 pregnancies, so she probably suspected. Emma was still staring at the paper, the clinical language, the numbers that said I wasn't her father. How long have you known? 7 years, since right after she left. Why didn't you tell us? Because it didn't matter, because you were mine, regardless, because I didn't want you to carry that weight. But we're carrying it now, Emma said, her voice was shaking. Now we have to know this, now we have to process this, while also dealing with Mom suing you. Her lawyer's going to bring it up in court. I couldn't let you hear it from them first. Jake was crying, silent tears running down his face. So you're not my dad? I moved to the couch, knelt in front of him. Jake, look at me. I've been your dad since the day you were born. I cut your umbilical cord. I was there when you took your first steps. I coached your soccer team. I helped you with your homework. I made you dinosaur pancakes every Tuesday for 7 years. DNA is science. That's all it is, science. But love is choice. And I chose you every single day. But you didn't have to, Jake sobbed. You could have left. I would never leave you. Never. You're my son. Biology doesn't change that. Emma was crying now too. Why would Mom do this? Why would she cheat? Why would she lie? I don't know. People make terrible choices sometimes, but her choices don't define you. They don't define us. Lily hadn't said anything, just sat there clutching her rabbit, processing. Then she spoke. Are we going to tell the judge about the DNA? My lawyer says we have to. Rachel's lawyer will bring it up anyway. What if the judge says we have to go with Mom because she's our biological mother? Then we fight. We show the judge that biology isn't the same as family. That showing up matters more than DNA. Emma folded her DNA report carefully, stood up, walked to the kitchen trash can, and threw it away. "That's what I think of biology," she said. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "You're still our dad. You've always been our dad, and I'll tell that to any judge who asks." Jake wiped his eyes, nodded. "Yeah, me too." Lily got up, came over to me, hugged me tight. "You chose us, so we choose you." I held my 3 kids and cried for the first time in 7 years. Not from grief, from relief, from gratitude, from love so overwhelming it had nowhere else to go. If someone chose you when they didn't have to, tag them. Let them know it mattered. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. Patricia subpoenaed everything: school records going back 7 years, financial documents, medical records, text message logs, photos, videos, every piece of evidence that proved I'd been there and Rachel hadn't. She also contacted witnesses: Mrs. Patterson next door, Jake's soccer coach, Emma's teachers, the school principal, Dr. Sarah Chen, the family therapist I'd taken the kids to after Rachel left. And she asked the kids to write letters to the judge, sealed testimony, in case they were too nervous to speak in court. Emma wrote 3 pages. Jake wrote 1 in careful handwriting. Lily wrote hers in pink pen with a heart at the bottom. Patricia read them and cried. "These are powerful," she said. "If the judge reads these, you'll win." What if Rachel's lawyer objects? They can't. Massachusetts allows minor children over 12 to submit sealed testimony. The judge is required to read it. The day of the hearing, I woke up at 4 a.m., couldn't sleep, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and looked at Jake's superhero drawing still hanging on the wall, the purple cape. My dad, my hero. I took it down carefully, slipped it into a plastic sleeve, brought it with me to court. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that looked like it came from a furniture catalog. Rachel was already there with her lawyer, a man in an expensive suit with perfect hair and a shark's smile. Rachel looked worse than she had at the coffee shop, thinner, grayer, a walking reminder of mortality. The kids sat in the gallery behind me. They'd wanted to come. Patricia had advised against it, but Emma insisted. "We need to be there," she said. "It's about us." The judge entered. Honorable Margaret Whitmore. 60-something, stern expression, no-nonsense demeanor. "This is a hearing for emergency custody modification," she said. "Ms. Preston, you're requesting full custody of 3 minor children. Mr. Preston is the current custodial parent. Ms. Preston, you may begin." Rachel's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client is the biological mother of Emma, Jacob, and Lily Preston. 7 years ago, during a difficult period in her marriage, she made the painful decision to temporarily separate from the family to address personal issues. During that time, Mr. Preston systematically alienated the children from their mother, ignoring her attempts at contact, denying visitation, and poisoning the children against her. My client is now terminally ill and wishes to spend her remaining time with her children. She's asking this court to rectify years of parental alienation and grant her the access she's legally entitled to as their biological mother." He sat down. Patricia stood. "Your Honor, that's an interesting work of fiction. The reality is Ms. Preston abandoned 3 young children, ages 9, 7, and 5 at the time, to pursue an extramarital affair. She filed for divorce. She voluntarily relinquished custody. She paid no child support. She made no effort to contact her children for 7 years until she received a terminal diagnosis. Now she wants access not out of love, but out of a desire to ease her own guilt before she dies. Mr. Preston has been the sole parent, financially, emotionally, physically, for 7 years. He has built a stable, loving home. The children are thriving, and Ms. Preston's sudden reappearance has caused nothing but chaos and manipulation." Rachel's lawyer shot up. "Objection! Counsel is making inflammatory..." Overruled. Ms. Walters, you'll have your chance. Continue, Ms. Chen. Thank you, Your Honor. We have extensive documentation of Mr. Preston's sole parenting. We also have testimony from the children themselves, submitted as sealed letters per Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 208, Section 31. The judge nodded. I'll review those in chambers. Ms. Preston, you may testify. Rachel took the stand, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. Then she lied for 20 minutes straight. She testified that she'd called weekly, but I'd hung up. That she'd sent letters I'd thrown away. That she'd tried to visit, but I'd threatened her with a restraining order. That the children had been turned against her by my controlling and manipulative behavior. She cried, real tears. Maybe she even believed her own story. The judge listened, took notes. Her expression gave away nothing. When Rachel finished, Patricia stood for cross-examination. Ms. Preston, you stated you called weekly. Can you provide phone records showing those calls? I don't have them anymore. You stated you sent letters. Can you provide copies or postage receipts? I didn't keep them. You stated Mr. Preston threatened you. Did you file a police report? No, I was too afraid. Too afraid to contact police, but not too afraid to file an emergency custody petition? Objection. Rachel's lawyer jumped up. Badgering. Sustained. Move on, Miss Chen. Patricia pulled out a folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence the actual phone records for the past 7 years. As you'll see, Ms. Preston made 0 calls to Mr. Preston's phone or the children's phones until 3 weeks ago. 0. Not weekly, 0. She handed copies to the judge and to Rachel's lawyer. I'd also like to enter bank records showing Ms. Preston paid $0 in child support, school records showing Mr. Preston as the sole emergency contact for 7 years, medical records showing Mr. Preston at every doctor's appointment, every emergency room visit, every vaccination, and photographic evidence of Mr. Preston at every birthday party, every school event, every soccer game. Patricia placed photo after photo on the evidence table, hundreds of them, 7 years of documentation. This, Your Honor, is what presence looks like. This is what commitment looks like. And I haven't even gotten to the most damning piece of evidence yet. She turned to Rachel. Ms. Preston, are you aware that Mr. Preston is not the biological father of any of the 3 children? The courtroom went silent. Rachel's face went white. What? DNA testing conducted 7 years ago confirmed Mr. Preston shares 0 biological connection to Emma, Jacob, or Lily. They are, in fact, the biological children of your affair partner. Were you aware of this? I don't. You had an affair that produced 3 children. You lied to your husband for years. Then you abandoned those children, and now you want this court to grant you custody because you're their biological mother? When the man who raised them, despite having 0 biological obligation, has been their only parent for 7 years. Objection. Rachel's lawyer was on his feet. This is overruled, the judge said quietly. She was staring at Rachel. Miss Preston, answer the question. Did you know? Rachel's hands were shaking. I suspected, I wasn't sure. But you never told your husband? No. And you never told the children? No. The judge made a note. Anything else, Ms. Chen? Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call the children's therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, who's been working with the family since Ms. Preston's departure. Dr. Chen took the stand, professional, calm, credible. In your professional opinion, what has been the impact of Mr. Preston's parenting? Remarkable, Dr. Chen said. Most children who experience parental abandonment show signs of attachment issues, anxiety, depression. Emma, Jacob, and Lily are well-adjusted, emotionally secure, and thriving academically and socially. That's entirely due to Mr. Preston's consistent, loving presence. And what has been the impact of Ms. Preston's recent reappearance? Destabilizing. The children were confused, then manipulated. Ms. Preston has engaged in what we call parental alienation. Ironically, exactly what she's accusing Mr. Preston of doing. She's attempted to rewrite history, gaslight the children, and undermine their trust in their father. Rachel's lawyer declined to cross-examine. Patricia returned to her seat, leaned over to me. "We're winning," she whispered. Then the judge said, "I'd like to hear from the children. Are they present?" Emma stood up in the gallery. "Your Honor, I'm Emma. I'm 16. I'd like to speak, if that's allowed." The judge looked surprised. "You may approach." Emma walked to the witness stand. She didn't look nervous. She looked determined. "You don't have to be sworn in," the judge said gently. "This isn't formal testimony. I just want to hear your perspective." Emma nodded. "I'm 16 years old. I remember when my mom left. I remember asking my dad when she was coming home. I remember him making me pancakes and helping me with homework and showing up to every single thing that mattered to me. For 7 years. Her voice was steady, strong. "My mom came back 3 weeks ago. At first I thought maybe I should give her a chance, but then she started lying. She told me my dad kept her away. She told me he wouldn't let her visit. She made me doubt the one person who never gave me a reason to." Emma looked at Rachel. "You left us. You chose to leave. And Dad chose to stay. Even after he found out the DNA results. Even after he knew we weren't biologically his. He stayed. Because that's what a parent does." Tears were streaming down Emma's face now. "I don't care about biology. I don't care about blood. I care about who was there. And that was my dad. Every single day. That's my dad." The courtroom was silent. The judge's eyes were wet. "Thank you, Emma. You may sit." Emma walked back to her seat. Jake grabbed her hand. Lily was crying. Patricia stood. "Your Honor, I believe you have sealed letters from all 3 children. I'd ask that you review them now before making a decision." The judge nodded. "We'll take a 15-minute recess while I read the letters in chambers." Everyone stood. Rachel's lawyer was frantically whispering to her. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "It's over, Daniel. We won." The 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. When the judge returned, her expression was unreadable. "I've reviewed the letters from all 3 children," she said. "I've also reviewed all the evidence presented. This is one of the clearest cases I've seen in my 20 years on the bench." She looked at Rachel. "Ms. Preston, you abandoned your children. That is the truth. Everything else is justification and excuse. You left 3 young children and their father to pursue an affair. You paid nothing. You contributed nothing. You made no effort to maintain a relationship. And now, facing your own mortality, you want to force your way back into their lives to ease your conscience." Rachel was crying, silent, shaking sobs. "Biology doesn't make a parent," the judge continued. "Commitment does, presence does, love does. Mr. Preston has been their parent, their only parent, for 7 years, by choice, despite having no biological obligation whatsoever. That is the definition of fatherhood." She looked at me. "Custody remains with Daniel Preston. Ms. Preston, you are granted supervised visitation twice monthly if and only if all 3 children consent. The children are old enough to make that choice themselves. This court finds no evidence of parental alienation by Mr. Preston. The petition for emergency custody modification is denied." The gavel came down. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, just sat there as the words sank in. Then 3 bodies slammed into me from behind. Emma, Jake, and Lily, rushing over the barrier, holding me like I was the only solid thing in the world, because for 7 years I was. Lily's letter being read made the judge cry. If you had to write a letter about who really raised you, whose name would you write? Share below. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air was cool and clean. The kids walked ahead of me, talking excitedly, the weight of the past 3 weeks finally lifting. Jake turned back. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely." Emma fell back to walk beside me. She was holding something, the hospital bracelet, the one I'd worn the day she was born, faded pink plastic with my name on it. "I found this in your drawer," she said, "when I was looking for the DNA results. You kept it all these years." "Of course I did." She wrapped it around her ankle, tied it tight. "Now we match," she said. At the ice cream shop, Jake pulled out his superhero drawing, the one with the purple cape. He'd carried it to court in a plastic sleeve, the same one I'd used. "I brought this," he said, "in case the judge needed to see proof." "Proof of what?" "That you're my hero." I looked at my 3 kids, my non-biological, completely mine kids, eating ice cream and laughing and making plans for movie night Friday. And I thought about the yellow legal pad, the desperate handwriting, the words I'd written 7 years ago. They didn't choose this. I choose them. I'd chosen them every day since, and they'd chosen me back. No questions, no lies, just us. And that's enough. We drove home as the sun set, painting the sky orange and gold. Inside the car, Emma was texting her friends. Jake was humming. Lily was playing with the hospital bracelet on her ankle, spinning it round and round. "Dad," Lily said suddenly, "are we going to see Mom again?" "That's up to you 3. The judge said you get to decide." "I think," Lily paused, "I think maybe once to say goodbye, but not because I have to, because I want to." Emma nodded. "Yeah, same." Jake shrugged. "I guess, but just once." "That's fair," I said. "It's your choice. It's always been your choice." When we got home, Mrs. Patterson was on her porch. She waved. I waved back. For once, I didn't care what she thought. Didn't care about the gossip or the judgment or the whispers. I had my family. That's all that mattered. That night, I took the DNA results out of the trash where Emma had thrown them, smoothed them out, looked at the numbers one last time, 0%, 0%, 0%. Then I took them to the backyard, put them in the fire pit, lit a match, watched them burn, biology gone, love remaining. The kids came out to watch. Nobody said anything, just stood there as the papers turned to ash and floated away on the night air. "Come on," I said finally. "It's Tuesday tomorrow. You know what that means." "Pancakes!" Jake shouted. "Dinosaur-shaped pancakes," Lily corrected. "Obviously," I said. We went inside, started planning the week, homework and soccer practice and Emma's college applications and Jake's science fair project and Lily's piano recital. Normal things, beautiful things, family things, no questions, no lies, just us. And that was always enough. Share your found family story below. Tell me about the person who chose you when they didn't have to. Tell me about the moment you realized biology isn't destiny. Tell me about the parent who stayed. We read every single one. And if this story reminded you that love is a choice, not a birthright, share it with someone who needs to hear that today. Because sometimes the best way to heal is to remind someone else they're not alone.